What's good, beautiful people? Welcome to 2.5 Husbands, where we celebrate becoming better husbands.
It's 2.5, even though there are 3 husbands, and that's because at some point, one of us, if not all of us, was not fully the husband that we were supposed to be.
And that's why we actually come here on a weekly basis to discuss some of the issues that we face, some of the issues we are seeing around us, and we hope that the journey that we started with you and for you is going to benefit you,
and yours.
Aware, Bafetu. Aware, a good afternoon.
Hey. What judge?
Good day, beautiful people.
Exactly. Good afternoon, good before evening,
That's right.
wherever you're watching us from. I don't know why we say from the 4 corners of the world, even though there's no corners.
Yeah.
But Asiko Labo.
Listen, but you went to a good school. You know what that means.
Yeah, no.
If you're to a good school, you know.
I'll tell you what.
The parents paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I may know what
explain.
that means. But I have an inquiry. I have a question.
I've got an axe.
Yeah, please answer the axe.
You must ask.
Answer the axe, please. Listen properly. I think today, the question on the table. What does submission mean, gents, in the context of marriage?
Firstly, it is the most non-vulgar offensive word of our generation,
Okay.
to be quite honest.
The most non-offensive vulgar.
No, the most non-vulgar offensive.
Oh, I see.
Listen properly.
The most non-vulgar offensive word
Yeah.
in our day and age.
Explain.
Submission.
In marriage.
in marriage.
And generally. But yeah, that's the first thing I thought about, because I'm like, yo, man, there are a lot of words, not a lot, but there are words where I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable using in my vocab, especially when I speak about marriage.
So is this the part where we ask people to like and subscribe now?
Before
And hopefully by the end of the episode, they forget to unlike.
Hey,
yeah, no,
come on now.
we use these kind of words, we're gonna lose subscribers and we're gonna lose listeners
We here. But
who
it's-
aren't the real ones. But yeah,
It
so-
has to be spoken about.
yeah, man. So I
Yeah.
think, submission. I think we find ourselves focused on its misuse, I guess, as a practice,
Okay.
to the point where I think we've lost the beauty thereof.
Alright.
I think it has a place in our society, in our context, but I think right now we are experiencing more of its abuse. So I think it's muddying the waters a bit.
Yeah.
Hectic. Okay. So
That's what I
most vulgar,
Vulgar.
No,
non-offensive.
The most
non-vulgar offensive.
offensive.
Yeah.
It's non-vulgar, but it's
Very offensive.
It's very
very
offensive.
offensive.
Okay.
I mean, some human beings will say it's vulgar.
All right.
Aye.
I'm telling you.
The words that those human beings use, I'm like, nah.
Again, like words don't have meaning outside of a context that they find themselves in.
All right.
So I'm like,
Explain.
we can, so take the F word, for example. Right? We know
Father.
We know.
Why? Because he's not there. I am not laughing.
Are you laughing at my pain?
No, I'm not laughing
Yeah,
at
so
your
it's
pain.
okay.
Right.
I'm a father to someone else when mine wasn't one to me. Anyway,
You're doing well.
Anyway,
Doing well.
so if we go to some tribe in the Amazon jungle that don't speak English and we throw the F word around, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Because contextually it has no weight. So, and I mean that's a bigger conversation and a bigger debate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where do words actually find their meaning? And what culture they find themselves in and how that culture ascribes meaning to those words. So, but I think where we at now, 21st century, with all the waves that have happened that we need to be chatting about, because we're speaking about submission, first,
Yes, sir.
second, and third wave. Let's put another F word, feminism. Hey, Jesus.
Hey.
Because of that.
Please like and subscribe because this is getting worse. The waves are getting higher.
It's getting worse. It's getting
But
worse.
because of that,
Yeah.
the word submission has, I think, taken a different meaning.
Sure.
And has been ascribed a different meaning by the culture that we find ourselves in, the time we find ourselves in.
That's
Okay.
a fair assessment.
With, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's why I would say, because of that, a lot of people will consider it vulgar.
Okay.
That's actually a good point because I was thinking. Sorry, quick side note. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, does it count as a cuss word or rather, is something a cuss word if the person doesn't understand you, and does it carry weight?
No, but the thing is, you understand it then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it still has some meaning. It's just a question of what meaning is.
Yeah.
ascribed.
So back to my example. If I go to the Amazon jungle and I, throw F-bombs everywhere,
It's still an F-bomb.
still because I know it.
You know what you're using.
Yeah. So culturally for them, at an objective level, that word means nothing. But I know what it means.
Okay.
Right? So consciously, I know what that word means. And if again, worldviews, perspectives, some person might think, well, for my worldview, the F word is not a cuss word. Although you're not going to use it with your boss. But anyway, that's another conversation.
But I mean,
or
there
your
are
grandmother.
books written at a corporate level which use the word. Not corporate as in like work, but as in like large scale.
Yeah.
There's a good book that I'm reading on finances and it uses the F word. And I'm like, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean in content. It's,
Anyway,
Maybe.
I know the book you're talking about.
I made it a long...
And I
I
would
think it's a
still
good
say it's an amazing book. And I
It's
would
very
still
good,
say she's not using that word. Which is another thing with words. She's using it to emphasize something. It's an emphasis.
And she's doing a good job at it.
She's
For
emphasizing.
the fact that she actually used that word. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Anyway,
Sorry.
So we've gone around explaining context of words and their meanings. On the other side, we're talking about non-vulgar.
I
offensive.
argue that it is vulgar and offensive for most people.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've given it
Yeah.
those two words, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
What are we calling submission here? Because you've told me what it can do, you've told me what its abuse can do, but you haven't told me what it is. What is submission?
Yeah.
For me, submission is scaffolding.
What? What is this man saying?
Scaffolding.
What construction tontos
You know
are
what?
you saying here?
Scaffolding does,
What?
or the purpose of scaffolding. It's a helpful structure, right?
Okay.
It's a structure, or rather, let me define it and bring it back to what I'm saying. Scaffolding. I think it's a good structure that can help you in building. In this case, your marriage or your relationship. And I say that because I struggle to think. I think generally because I like rules, I like structures, I like things that make sense, and not because I'm a good person, because I'm just generally lazy, and I like not having to think about rules because they're already there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, with a concept like submission, it really helps when you consider its benefits, and I'm not talking about its misuse or its abuse in our context, but I'm just like, if practiced properly, I think it's a very good structure that helps us build our marriages, or in this case, it helps me build my marriage.
So there's a subscriber that's leaving, and I'll tell you why. They are leaving.
They left when you said feminism.
Yeah, hundreds.
I don't know.
No,
You haven't heard scaffolding.
I didn't even get into details on that. So
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
gracious enough to stick around. But they're leaving now because we're dancing around the issue.
Okay.
Submission is for women.
I mean, if you want to say that.
Because we're dancing around the issue. When we speak of submission in marriage, no one who's watching this is thinking, I wonder how men submit.
Fair.
Why are you saying it's for women?
Were you thinking us submitting, or were you thinking your wives?
Look, I think it's offensive, non-vulgar, but offensive in the context of women. Would I say that as husbands we don't submit? I think we do.
Okay.
But we
Yes.
take less offense to
There's
the
another
submission.
subscriber who's a man who just left.
No, but submitting to who or to what?
That's what I'm saying.
You must come back, the subscriber that left.
Wait,
don't leave.
You saying men can submit in marriage?
Yes.
Okay.
I would even argue should submit.
I
in
think
marriage.
so too. Yeah.
Hundreds. Okay, fair. You say so as well.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Husbands should submit.
Okay.
You have a wry smile that I really would love for you to. Let's double click. Why are you smiling?
I believe husbands are called to do something else and not submit.
They are called
so we
to do something
shouldn't
else.
submit.
To our wives.
No one said anything about submitting to your
I said
wife.
submit.
I get it's in
I
marriage.
said submit, but
It's
I'm
in
not
marriage.
Yeah, but I'm not saying submit to my wife.
Okay.
Ooh,
And not that submission is bad.
What
but
are
I'm
we?
just saying.
We're like 5 minutes in.
I'm saying.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, we're dancing around this thing. Me, I was
But
trying
we're
to...
dancing because it's the most
if you
non-vulgar,
listening-
offensive word.
If you're listening or you're watching, that's... You clicked on this thing because
Yeah.
that's what you thought.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 husbands. These dudes are probably going to speak about how their wives are supposed to submit or should be submitting. But you cats are saying, no, husbands are also supposed to submit. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, let's hear that then.
Yeah.
Because I get the scaffolding and how it's building. Maybe you'll tell us
Yeah,
how husbands and wives
Sure.
both submit. Therefore, we'll get the full picture of the scaffolding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not now.
Okay.
Let's. Gents,
I love it. I love
this
it.
chat, nah, and I think I'm intentionally dancing around it because generally because of how offensive I found it to be. It's not that I'm not sure of what I'm saying or I can't stand by what I'm saying or substantiate it. But I'm just like, it's so sensitive, bro. Yes, I do personally believe that submission is for women, right? In the context of my marriage, I would say submission is for my wife, right? But I would throw in that I need to submit as a husband because I do believe that there's a submission
Submit
that
to your
I
wife?
No, not to my wife,
Okay.
right?
So your wife submits to
At least
you.
not in the exact same sense that she submits to me.
Okay,
Let me put
okay,
it that way.
okay.
Right?
Alright.
So she submits to me in a certain way.
Yeah.
I submit to her in a different way. Right?
Okay.
Because I see it as scaffolding, it's a helpful tool that helps us build our marriage. And I think if it's undefined or if it's unclear as to how we're supposed to submit to one another in the different aspects, I think it becomes very unhelpful. So it's clear how she has to submit and it's clear how I have to submit. Maybe I'll elaborate moving forward, but I do have to submit as a husband to my wife in some aspect. But I also think I need to submit to... I'd say for now, I'd say I need to submit to the vision of the family.
Okay.
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 So we could take two angles. I think let's start with this one. It's sounding like you are saying submission is for the wife to the husband, right? Then you're saying submission is primarily for the wife to the husband, but there is some submitting that you do which may be secondary to
Yes.
you being submitted to.
Yes.
And you know what's the... And maybe I cut you off, but I'm going to say it now. We probably going to fall into the same trap that I think the word submit has fallen into.
Okay.
Where we start playing semantics. And what I mean by that is, I'm pushing back against your thing. When I say submission is primarily for my wife, and then there's other ways that I submit, but not like the way she's submitting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start dancing around what I mean by my word, or my phrase that a husband is supposed to submit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start dancing around that. I'm gonna be very clear on what my wife submitting looks like, but then I'm gonna start playing. No, but submit could mean this here, but submission is this there.
Yeah.
And yet with the wife, we're gonna be very clear.
Yeah, I do think that
So-
to not run the risk of then falling into the semantics, because I know I was prefacing my definition of submission,
Yes.
and I can
Yes.
elaborate
Yes.
so that it can be clear, right?
Yes.
I don't know if this is the time now.
Marfa's getting somewhere.
Yeah.
You've given a primary versus secondary function of submission
Yes,
to the
yes,
husband and the wife.
Yes.
And you've just outright said submission is for the wife. So
Yes.
we get your general view or framework you're using. We'll double tap into it and make sense of it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure someone who's on the other end of this chat is asking, this black guy just says it's for the wife.
Maf is playing judge. What's your definition, Maf?
Look,
So I got on. Out
think-
with it.
I'll tell you.
I can't be the only one losing us subscribers here.
Oh, you want me
Nah,
to
this
join
one
you?
is gonna be tough.
Look, I think it functions in probably the same way you're referring to it as, which is submission primarily is the role of the wife to the husband. I think where it becomes murky in the culture is you haven't seen that submission honored with what supports it, right?
100.
So it makes it difficult for women to agree to submit if
And I
neither
agree with them.
themselves- Yeah, no, we're with them. You can like and subscribe. Yeah.
Welcome back.
If there's no context to submit,
Yeah.
which I know, bro, now there's other people who would say stuff that whether the context exists or not, just because you're married as a woman, you need to submit, right? And I'm like, nah, outright. I think there needs to, and I'll tell you what that context is, but finish.
So that's where I would agree with you. I do think, depending on, and that's the problem, right? Is we're having a conversation which is super nuanced around
hundreds.
the meaning ascribed to the word submission. Which is where the submitting to one another becomes an interesting addition, right? Because it's to say, I'm not a dictator in here telling us this is what we will do, and you will submit. But it's one of those, let's have a conversation about the direction that we're going, and let's move in that direction. But we're gonna have to double click even more on that. But what I find is that we're having a conversation on submission that expects women to submit handles, but then there's another element of submission, or the term submission, that sort of says there are guardrails, scaffolding. Scaffolding that allow for submission to take on a beautiful view rather than a vulgar view, in my perspective. So that's where I would sit, right? And I'm like, I think that's where I'm at, but it'll be beautiful for us to color now in between the frameworks that we're using. Because they're different.
If you've been watching and listening to our podcast, you know, like we get to the definition of the topic very quickly. But this one
took us some time, bro. It took us some time.
Anyway, we're here now.
We can now start.
We're here now.
Let's begin.
All right.
Okay, cool. So I think when I speak about when I think about submission, and when the word that comes to mind or the concept that comes to mind is that of scaffolding. So I look at quick background. When I got married, and the elder sat us down, baralaya, I don't know what the word is in English, but they sit you down and then they speak to you about what the expectations are. They help you out, give you wisdom and all of that. There was one thing that was said, and essentially what was then being said, and I think it started, well, obviously because we started on my wife's side of the family, but they spoke about how you need to submit to this man because he's now responsible for your family. When it got to my side, they emphasized the weight of me loving my wife and treating her with respect and how I'm responsible for the family, right? And the common denominator from both sides was that whatever happens in the family, we're going to come to Prince. Whatever happens, we're going to come ask Prince what's going on. Jorge, it's your wife, she's not flourishing at her career, or it's you are struggling with your health. We're going to come to you because you are our first point of reference, right? So with that weight, then I would suggest, or I'd like to think, comes in the question, okay, if there's that responsibility, what are the supporting structures that are there in place for you to fulfill your responsibilities as a husband and as a leader and as the primary accountable party? You get what I'm saying? And that's why then I'm like, okay, cool, sharp. That's that. That's been laid down, right? Prince is responsible for his family. I look at then submission and I'm just like, my wife in my marriage, how we define it is that my wife needs to submit to me as Prince, right? We both agreed on this. What does that submission look like? And now I'm tempted to speak out what does not look like, because that's a lot of what we are seeing right now, right? But what that submission looks like is her understanding that I am accountable and responsible if anything happens in our household, right? So she needs to be understanding that whatever decision is made in the end, he's the one whose head is on the chopping block should anything go south.
Sure.
If anything works out or if goes north in this case, then again, it's going to start with him, but then he has to obviously then reflect the family and he has to speak about how the family is doing well, whatever the case is, right? So she has to be understanding of the role and the position that I have. So when we make decisions, now making it a bit more practical, when we make decisions, she knows that she has a voice. She's always had a voice, right? The only difference is when that decision is made, I am the one that becomes primarily accountable to then give an account of why it is we made this decision. So then she understands that, listen, we work together in making the decision, but Prince has the final say. The final say in the sense that he's the one that is accountable, right?
Okay.
Have we made decisions where I call the shots against my wife's will? Yes. Have we made decisions that were in favor of her opinion or her side of the story? Equally so, you know?
Okay.
And it's my responsibility as a leader. You spoke about the context to submit. It's my responsibility as a leader to identify our individual strengths and weaknesses. Simply put, and I'll close with this, with money. My wife is exceptional with money. I suck.
Like, oh, woman. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So when it comes to making decisions about money, if my wife says we're going to go buy a Porsche tomorrow, I am so confident in her financial prowess that I won't question it.
Are you sure? I know you like Porsches, bro.
I'm just saying, the point I'm trying to make...
Maybe this is where the community intervenes. Should we come chat to you and your wife?
No. But the point I'm making is that, like,
Porsche.
the reality is I know that she has a better head on her shoulders when it comes to finances. So the final decision, more often than not, is actually resting on her expertise and her wisdom, not on mine.
So,
But I need to be accountable for the decision that we made.
Spot on.
so when she's making the decisions on money, going back to your original definition, are you then saying you submitting to her?
So I'm tempted to answer that, but I would like to say she's not making the decision.
Okay.
We are making the decision together,
Yes.
right? But I'm accountable for that decision. So if you come and you're like, Prince, you're driving a Porsche, just keep on. I'd be like, no, this is X, Y, and Z. This is what we decided as a family. We want to flex on you, sharp.
So let's double click on your.
I just, I want to know what then submitting for you looks like. Because you said that the husband submits.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, I did make it clear that I'm not saying the husband submits equally. When I speak about the husband submitting...
equality.
Not equally in the sense like equally, right? In the sense that it's the same.
Okay, so
Right?
it's same, but different.
Yes. Same but different, right? It's most different. So what I'm speaking
What
about...
are the twins that are not the same? Is it paternal twins?
I don't know.
There's a set of
There's
twins.
identical.
There's
then there's
identical.
other.
where they look
Fraternal
alike.
and-
I think it's fraternal twins.
Yeah, no.
So that's what you say. You are twins, but
Somewhat. You're equal in humanity,
you are not the same.
but you're not the same.
All
you know?
right. I sense
One has a
woman's
dimple
chest.
on the left, the other has a dimple on the right. So here's my thing,
Jeez.
right? When I look at how outside I've seen me as Prince submitting to my wife, I submit to her well-being. And I know it sounds abstract, but I submit to her well-being in the sense that the decisions that we make as a family, I will take into account how does it impact her.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I submit to her well-being as one of the ways in which I submit, right?
This is what I said. We're gonna dance around.
But I'm not dancing though.
It's semantics, bro.
Because you know what I was gonna say around your definition. Your definition is working when you're in alignment, right? Because there's no possibility of turmoil, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying probably when people look at submission and click on this thing, it's like, so when I don't agree with this guy, I must still submit. That's where a lot of the
Yes,
vulgarness comes out of the word. To be like, I, as an independent woman, am able to do A, B, and C in and of my own capacity.
Yes.
Maybe I am actually better at the money stuff, but
Yes.
Prince is saying no.
Yeah, but I do think it's multi-layered, right? Because if we don't agree on something and I make a decision that is contrary to what she would want, and maybe it makes her unhappy or whatever the case is, I as a husband should still be able to prove, maybe not to her in the moment, but I should be able to prove how the decision that is made is for her well-being, even though in the moment it might not feel that way.
I love it. Okay. That's interesting.
You still need to prove to her that it's
Yes.
okay.
But
But
doesn't
she
have to be in the
also,
moment.
so that's the submission I'm talking about. That in that moment, even with her not fully, let's call it trusting.
Yeah.
Whatever decision you're making,
Yeah.
she aligns to that decision,
Yes.
even if she may not fully understand it or believe even
So
in
when-
that direction that it's taking.
Exactly. So when I said it's multi-layered, I was actually thinking of the trust issue. Because it's that thing of my wife should trust that my husband is always on my side. So if he says we're not going left, we're going right, it's because he believes that even for me, not only for us as a unit, but even for me as his wife, it's better that we go right instead of left or left instead of right. I'm done. I've been speaking.
That's helpful. Interesting.
I'm tired, man.
And that's
I
where
feel like I'm in a room with like women.
Submit.
I'll submit.
Submit yourself
I'll
to rest
submit
right
to
now.
the fatigue.
rest.
I'll submit to the fatigue that I now have.
Rest above it.
So now, you're after having heard that view,
Why are you a
it's
judge?
still. Gotta
Why?
Judy?
submit
Why
to
are
my
we
question.
exactly? Why are we submitting to Simba?
He's saying
Why are you defensive?
why are you the judge?
Yes.
So
No, I hear him saying you are playing the judge, but I want to ask him.
Ask me what.
Where now? Why are you being defensive about
why aren't
answering
you
the
answer
ask?
answer the
You
ask?
ask the ask.
You've been jiving around the ask.
I haven't.
You've
All
been-
right.
I'm the one who burst the
So-
bubble when
Nah,
you
nah.
cats were dancing around it.
but
You know when kids play the bubbles,
the bubbles thing.
and then you inflate a big bubble and you're dancing around it.
But it gets to a
No,
point
no,
where
no.
it climaxes and you have to answer something.
But here, I
and you're
think
like,
here's
nah.
my point.
Okay.
In fact,
Okay.
since you are worried about me judging, listen properly, everybody.
Yeah.
Here's where you submit, champion. You feel like I'm being a judge? Okay, fine. Submit to the structure.
Because
Answer
he has our best interest.
What are you
at heart.
asking me?
What I am asking
He's the lead.
you is here. I am accountable.
He brought it to the
and
table.
responsible
I see you.
for this episode.
I see you.
Ask.
I see you.
Answer the question,
Yes.
comrades,
Yes.
is similar
Yes.
to what he's
Hundreds,
bringing about.
hundreds.
What's different with
What's
yours? Because
different?
you're like, nah, there's no.
Yeah. I don't believe. I don't live. I don't think.
You're using very strong.
I am.
What is it? Adjectives. Like
I am. That husbands are called to submit. And let me be very clear. Husbands, not talking to your boyfriend. I'm not talking to your fiance. Not talking to your partner. I'm not talking to your mans.
not even to the men that has paid the lobola. But
I know if you paid the lobola.
But I get it by law.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I know.
By
Paid
law,
the
you're
lobola,
recognized.
your husband. That's
Okay.
that's your wife, my friend. Right?
Okay.
And obviously, then other people have very subjective reasons why they wouldn't call themselves husband and wife after lobola. But in my books, aye.
Yeah.
And
so
the
you're
law.
speaking to the husband.
And the law.
And the
I'll
law.
cry and do shayile dog, yeah. Yabo? So me, I'm like, I don't believe husbands are called to submit. So if your boyfriend is like, yeah, this guy is right, he's a boyfriend. I'm not talking to him. No. Right?
He doesn't fit the criteria.
Nah. Life. Life.
Send some cows, my friend.
Life.
So you're your own person until you guys get married, and then the wife has to
Submit.
flip the switch.
Yes. Because of the institution of marriage.
Aha. Okay.
Right? Because of the institution of marriage.
Institution of
So,
marriage.
Scaffolding
so what I'm saying is husbands are called to, wives are called to submit. Yeah? Two things.
Also,
Wives,
you're using words like cold.
Who's
too.
calling them?
Who's calling?
We'll get there.
man.
We'll get there. And that's the thing. You don't wake up married.
Okay.
right? You might have dreams and aspirations to be married.
Yeah.
But there comes a time where you're like, I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? I'm not talking about the one. I don't believe in the one. Hey, I found the one. No.
Our normal Zulu, you believe in the 2 or the 3 or the 4. Hey man, Nababa Masu.
Anyway, so I think there's a time in your adulthood, right,
Okay.
where the call for marriage happens. And I could justify this theologically or even culturally.
Yeah.
Where there's a call for marriage, right? Whether we talk about marriage done from a religious perspective, or we talk about marriage done at a cultural perspective. Cultures, there was a standard to say this is when we think as a culture, as a society, that you are qualified now to get married. Or think about it, right? So in that sense, there's a call, right? When you think about like Hebrew culture, I'm like, we always think about Jesus' mother. And some people think she was in her 20s. She was a teen. 14, 13, right? Why? Because 2,000 years ago, Hebrew culture, if you're a first century Palestinian Jew, 13, you're too old, my boy. Simba, they kick you out of your house. You need to go build your own house, boy. Right? Why? Society and the culture at that point was shaped or even established in a way that we think you're okay now, right? And sure, there's some biological stuff that's part of the thinking and reasoning there. But as we move, our culture, our time, our epoch, right?
Epoch.
Now, if we take my little sister just turned 18, right? If she's getting married, we'd all freak out.
Yeah.
We'd all freak out. But she's 18. Can she legally get married? Yeah, she can, right? But culturally, we all freak out.
Sure.
Why is she getting married now? We've agreed as a society. None of us came together and sat down and said, hey, we're fit. But because of culture and how culture changes, right? Environment and culture have a relationship. Because of how that stuff changes, it determines then the rules for whatever time we find ourselves in. Right?
Okay.
So anyway, so there is a calling by culture. There's a calling if we think religiously. If God is the one who sets the marriage, he establishes what this institution is. He's the one who sets the rules.
Yeah.
He's the one who appoints a time to call people. So I use calling either way. Whether it's culturally or thingy, I'm like, you have to be called to this thing, right? And not that if you called, it's not going to fail. Some people have divorced and they've told us, God said, clear appella writing. Fast.
Whack.
So I'm not saying if you called now suddenly, like this thing is bulletproof, right? Anyway, so women or wives rather are called to submit and they're called to respect, right? Husbands are called to love.
Amen.
Not submit, right?
Okay.
Called to love.
Sure.
Right? And love is more of a sacrificial game.
Yep.
Or an act. You could argue submission is. But it's the one who is laying his life on the line. Some of the stuff that Prince was saying, you know? So I'm accountable. My head is on the chopping block. Blah, blah, blah. And I don't say this. Don't hear me saying this and you think, well, who asked you to do that? Right? And you're saying it like it's duty. Yeah, sure. Part of it is hard, you know. If I'm gonna love my wife and sacrifice myself and put myself last, right? I'm not saying because I'm called to love her, then that means that I'm always placing myself first. No, I'm actually I'm placing myself last, right? And that's what I was saying that earlier on when I was saying. That's the context to which she submits to. Other people would argue doesn't matter, right? But I'm like, yeah, sure, I think it matters, and I think if God institutes marriage, he places it that way because he knows that that's the only it's the only space in which this thing is gonna exist and thrive and survive. Right?
Okay.
If husbands are loving, right? And wives are submitting. And so the husband has to think of the wife's best interest. How is this woman gonna be, the best version of who she is? Right? So we meet, I got married when we were in our 20s. How am I gonna get my wife to be like, 2.1 what version of herself when she's in her 30s. When she's in her 40s, how she's gonna be 3 point what version of herself, you know? She lives till 90. What's gonna be number 6 point whatever version of herself?
Sure.
Because she's with me.
Sure.
Not with Simba, not with Prince. She's with me, right? How is she gonna be the best ever, right? And I can't manufacture that or engineer that. What I've been called to is part of what's gonna make her the best version of herself is if I love her. Love her unconditionally. Love her selflessly. Love her sacrificially. Place my back, bro.
Yeah.
My liver, my heart, my body on the line for her, right? And that's the love I believe husbands are called for. And for me, to elevate this conversation, that's why submission has become a cuss word. Because then you'll get, and here I'm going for your neck.
In fact, we already lost 5 subscribers
It's okay.
because of you today.
That's where you get this manosphere red pill rubbish, right? No, let's go. Because then you get that. Yeah. If you're a woman, you're supposed to be in the cage. If you're a woman, you're supposed to sub. If you're a woman, blah, 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 blah. You said nothing about how this woman is going to be the best version of herself by you shutting up, submitting, semantics, by sacrificing yourself.
Yeah.
Lovingly.
Yeah.
Right? With all of who you are. Right? Before, I'm like, yeah, my wife has to. No. Who is she?
Yeah.
Right? Who has God designed her to be?
Yeah.
What's the best thing for her? Right?
Yeah.
What are her dreams? What does she want to achieve? What's all that God has deposited into her life?
Sure.
Right? And because God and again, that's the thing. God entrusted her with me.
That's the weight of it all.
Yeah. It's fine if you don't believe in God. But your society, your family,
Her parents.
your culture, her parents entrusted you with this girl. Right? You need to look after her, right? Her dad, her mom, her family were looking after her. Now we're giving her to you. That's why when people get married, we ask, ask,
Yeah.
who gives this woman?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Right? And we say that publicly so that the whole society knows this
Yeah.
woman has been given away by this family, this man to this guy, right? So now we know there's a transfer here. Right? Yeah, and I know Peter transfer.
Hey!
There's
The
a
language you
transfer.
are using.
Right? No, this.
The language you are
And
using.
here's the thing. Somebody's gonna say, yeah, how can we say that? That's economic. No. I'm not saying the transfer of love. Right?
We regained 5 subscribers.
Yeah. Does it mean her dad loves her less or her parents or family love her less? No. But they're entrusting you with all the love that they gave her since she was born.
To continue and increase.
And increase it. Not
man.
even just continue. Increase it, my man.
Yeah.
Because now we've agreed as a family, as a society.
Yeah.
I would even argue God has said it's time and it's fit that this woman grows in love
Yes.
through the institution of marriage. She was a daughter, she was a sister before, but she will grow more as she takes on this new identity as a wife. And why is she a wife? I'm her husband. She's my wife. And so I need to love her, bro. The best.
Yeah.
Practically sitting here, do I love my wife in the terms I described? Not all the time.
Yeah.
Growing in it. Sometimes I'm a flop, half of a husband,
Yeah.
proper.
Yeah.
Equally so. Does she submit to me? Not all the time, right? We're growing in the thing. But I'm saying, and somebody, does this mean your wife doesn't love you? No, my wife loves me, obviously.
Yeah.
She loves me. We know that. But that's not what she's primarily called to do. To make this thing thrive. Right? So now I'm talking about the institution of marriage.
Okay, got you.
To make this thing thrive, to
Yeah.
make this thing be the best that it can be, that's not her primary call.
Yeah.
That's on me.
Yeah.
Her primary call is submission. And that's why I think that the word submission holds a lot of weight. Because if I understand it in those terms, that's
Yes.
her primary calling
Sure.
in this thing called marriage.
Yeah.
So then what happens to the lovey-dovey? She can be lovey-dovey, but if she's going to make this thing work
Yeah.
as well.
If
that
she's
this thing is gonna
lovey-dovey
thrive.
without submission, then
But it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I could even go back to what you were saying. Let's say now I'm like, yeah, I'm going to submit to. If I submit to my wife all day long and I don't love her, this thing's not going to work, bro.
But I do think, though, listening to what you've said, right, I do think that we are saying the same thing, because if you superimpose what I said
Yes.
with what you said,
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of alignment.
Yes.
Only difference is I was trying to gain us subscribers first of all, and then the second thing is I think I was trying to appease the more colloquial approach to the word submission, where I'm like, effectively, I'm speaking about loving my wife. If it's about her best interest at heart, then it's
So
to
my
your
thing
point,
is,
yeah.
my
But
argument
I hear
would
what
be,
you were saying about
why don't you
semantics
just
as
call
well.
it that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's basically saying there is no submission that you do. You love her.
Yes.
And she submits.
Yeah, no, I was trying to gain subscribers, dog. I'm sorry, y'all, for trying to gain subscribers.
No, let's go back.
yeah.
Let's go back to the practicality. So similar thing to your wife. My wife is a genius when it comes to money.
Where now?
Kills it.
Dom.
No.
That's why.
No. Like even Dom gets a chance in school.
You don't make this up.
No. No, I didn't even pass the test to get into the school, my man.
You haven't passed with the
I
new
failed
pass
the bridging
with the new
course.
pass rate. You haven't passed.
No, 30% zero. Done, right? My wife kills it when it comes to money, right? Hundreds, right? But so in this case, the loving thing is, let me not try and be a mathematician, right? Should I be growing in understanding
should.
money? I should. I learn stuff here, I learn stuff there,
But
easy,
it's just not.
blah, blah, blah,
It
blah,
doesn't
blah.
come as natural.
No, yeah, it doesn't. And I should learn,
Yeah.
fine, right? But the loving thing for us, so that we're not broke, right,
Yeah.
is to say, hey, let me listen to my wife. Okay, what do you think we should do with that? Oh, what do we think? Da-da-da. Okay, sharp. But like you said, so that's the loving thing to do. Submission is her saying, here are all my findings, here are all my calculations, here are all that. When, Baba, what do you decide?
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
What do you decide? Hundreds. Okay. No, I think we're doing that. No, we're not doing that. Blah, blah, blah. But I'm being informed, right? No president, perfect, who knows everything. He has advisors. But he has the final
he
call.
has the decision of what bill to write.
And let me end here because now I've been prating. Ne? It does not mean whether it's in the eyes of God or it's in the eyes of my society. If a society is functioning well, by the way,
Yeah.
because I think when it comes to submission,
another side road,
I think it's a reflection of how society is not working well.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
But if a society is working well, decently so, and in the eyes of God, it means nothing about my value or her value. Because I'm called to love her, she's called to submit to me.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with our value as
her intellect,
as humans.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
No, right? There's areas in which I am hella talented compared to my wife. There's areas where she floors me, destroys me, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
That's why you married her. You married above yourself.
Hundreds. Does it
Standard.
mean
Standard.
Does it mean that she's less of a human
No.
in terms of her value, in terms of
okay.
who she is? Nah, bro. Does it mean I'm a better human? No.
But it does mean you
Doesn't.
are a lower human in terms of net worth compared to your wife because you suck at finances.
But that's why he
I'm
married
kidding.
her. So
That's
he
what
elevated his
Yeah,
network.
some of us married for financial freedom.
No,
to
that's
be
why
honest.
here we're 2.5 husbands. If they
Yeah.
had a podcast, it would just be 3 wives.
Hey.
If anyone has not picked up that we love our wives and
Nah.
that we praise them,
That is love, and then they submit.
Hundreds.
So okay,
Amen.
so we've got the
Thanks, Judge.
2 lenses which I think are being
Yes. Woven.
there's a confluence.
Yes.
I knew we were going somewhere when we went with epoch. I was like,
Yeah, no. I was like, it's
get
Chad,
your
dog.
dictionary,
Chad.
Merriam-Webster, Oxford, whatever you use.
Belly.
Sila. So now, when we talk submission, because I think there is a context that you were talking about, right? So maybe so that I'm not being seen as a judge
Yes.
in the conversation.
He's here now. You have arrived.
I'm with you. I'm within.
Yes.
I'm not sending you out to the slaughter. But when I look at submission as well, if I were to give a practical example, our household is slightly different. Let's take that issue of finances. My wife is more of a saver and has a lower risk appetite than I do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it means when we make saving/investment decisions, if I am accountable and responsible and I say, babe, I see this, I know it might be risky in the short term, but I think in the long term there's going to be upside. And this is a practical example. We had a conversation around investment. Where are we going to put our money? What is it that we're going to do? Her natural thing is just to say, let's just
chill,
let's just something with guarantee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, we're young. If we lose the money, we lose the money.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from an investment perspective, and I'm saying the upside in the longer term is going to be better for our wealth, for our growth, for our flourishing.
Yeah.
Her act of submitting to that and saying, I am uncomfortable, but I'm going to trust you with this decision.
Yep.
That's submission.
Yep.
Sure.
For me,
Exactly.
I have to love in the way that we then have that conversation and communicate and say, look, I do think this will be better for our flourishing.
Yeah.
And again, even if it doesn't come out that way, her act of submitting would be saying to me, if it doesn't act up that way, oh no, you are the one who led us through this. This is your fault. Yada, 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 yada. If we're to play that example out in its full context, me loving her would be if she comes and raises those issues, not lashing out back and saying, you are supposed to submit. Yeah. It's to say, I understand.
Yeah.
I think I made an error in the assessment that I made.
Yeah.
Here's how I think we could be able to flourish with these current steps moving forward.
Yeah.
So I feel sometimes the conversation is detached from context. And that is where you see that love and submission.
And do you realize how fluent you need to be in giving an account of that decision?
Yes.
Should it flop?
Absolutely.
First of all, you need to be fluent in convincing her lovingly, because love, it pulls with itself patience, understanding, kindness. So you need to be fluent in convincing her and going through the decision-making process. And you need to be fluent in giving an account should things go wrong.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
that's the weight that then you spoke about as well, where you like that as a calling, and I'll use the word, if you are called, it's not I run this house, so it's my way or the highway, and then it ends there. Like there's a lot of weight that comes with the calling. That I would say if we as men, as husbands, actually grew in that understanding of that weight, we would be a lot more mindful, a lot more sensitive, and a lot more loving.
In the way that we move forward.
Exactly.
And I think then, segueing back into the judgment.
hundreds.
Wearing my robe. So when now we look at it, right? So you mentioned cultural moving or contextual changes in the way culture sees things. Do you believe that submission as a concept was less vulgar prior to us?
Yeah.
I would call it our generation, maybe generations before. You mentioned first wave, second wave, third wave, feminism, all of these things. Do you think that it was less vulgar or more palatable prior to our generation
Thinking about something else. Anyway, yeah.
versus the context that submission would have taken, not even, maybe 2 generations before us?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the easy answer is to say, yes, it wasn't vulgar before us. And that's what I was commenting on now. You have to qualify why that is, right? And I think that's a longer chat.
It is.
It's a longer chat. But I do think that maybe let me premise it, or even let's put a caveat there. Why I think it's a longer chat is because the university has broken into society, right? So some of these things that we talk about, the fact that we even have podcasts now, is the reflection or the manifestation of how academia or the university has left the university and gotten into society. So now I'm like, people would get, let's say 3 generations ago. So when we think about marriage, so now we're talking about marriage, people would get what they should be doing in their marriage, what marriage is, how to move in marriage, etc., either from a church or from their families, right? But now, when was the university or academia not talking about marriage or relationships? They were.
They were.
But when those doors flung open, right, and the walls were broken and university got into society, which is where we live now, right? Ideas that were chopped up and given room and years to breathe, right? now don't have that space.
Sure.
Right? So some clever intellectual somewhere in a university has a mic like us and comes and says something, or even if they're not an intellectual, but somebody with a mic like us, right?
Yeah.
You say something, and once you say that thing and it enters into society, and it's probably not thought through thoroughly and hasn't been given the kind of space that the university would give it, then it lands on society's ears, right, half-baked, and then we kind of convolute that stuff with our own experience, our own hurts, et cetera, right? All that to say, I think that's what's happened with submission, right? Besides the fact that, let me put another thing, that the reason why the word submission, I think, has also gotten a bad rap is because of people who are married, right?
Okay.
Married people have to take accountability for the fact that they abused the beauty of submission, right? And let's be fair here, it's most likely a majority of husbands, right, who've abused their wives and have treated them like doormats.
In the name of.
Yeah. And so we sit here, third generation, we saw how grandmothers were treated, we saw how our mothers were treated. So we have that coupled with the fact now that we have all this half-baked information that has come from the university into society. And it's not half-baked because of the university. It's just that we don't think like that. Normal people don't walk around thinking, how am I going to, concept of deconstruction, how am I going to deconstruct this thing? How am I going to... People are just fish in water. You want to live, you want to save money, you want to invest, you want to have kids, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car. You just want to live, right? How many people in society are sitting there thinking around their dinner table, hey, man, let's mechanically break down what the word submission
The
is.
intersectionality of.
Right? But Twitter has created that space where there's half-baked information. Podcasts have created that thing. And so now I'm like, we're going to have to do, as married people, as husbands in this case, we have to do the hard work of not just coming onto these mics and speaking about these things, but actually living them out well, right? So that when our kids get on podcasts in 3 generations from now, they're not trying to find out what this thing is, but they've seen it live out, and they've heard us wrestle with the stuff, so that they're not wrestling with the things we're wrestling with, but they're just applying them. They've seen them, they know what the clear definition of these things are, right? So for me, there'll be, again, I'm prating vandaag. It would be, again, married people taking accountability to how they've treated submission, right? But then society as a whole, we need to be very careful to say, okay, cool. Where does my experience of how I've seen submission being abused, where does it end? And where does so-and-so's voice start, right? And in this case, let me say Manosphere or Red Pill or whichever other guy that you're listening to. Where does his voice start? Where does my experience finish? Where does his voice start, right? And I think once you can make that distinction, then you could probably pull back and be more sober in how you engage with the word submission in this case, right? But I just think, again, bro, the word submission has gotten a bad rap because of those two things. And I'm trying to say with my little piece, clarify that submission is a beautiful thing. Submission is a godly thing, right? If God is cruel, sure, hundreds, I'm with you. Then he's called women to be slaves. But I don't believe that God is cruel. I don't believe that he doesn't have a heart for his girls, right? I think he has a heart for his girls. And if he's going to entrust his girls with us, right? Like you saying, if God comes back, burst through these doors, he's asking me how this household has become better because he's entrusted me with this household. Not because I'm more intellectually,
or even that you're the best leader,
so I'm the best leader or whatever. No, he's entrusted me, which is a privilege, which is it's a gift, right? And so he's going to ask me, how has this thing become better? Because I've given you a wife, I've given you children. How have they become better people in this world because of you? Right?
I will say,
I saw you flinching.
Not that it's a point that we should speak of, or we should speak on, but when you were saying it, I was like, it sounds like a very big ask of society.
Yes.
To have that internal, where does the voice start? I'm like, the truth from what I've observed is that our current context, or with our current context, and it's very generalized, but the general society is not a connoisseur of veracity or of truth. We generally don't
Now
live
you're
in
gonna
a
have
space.
to double click that. There's someone in there like me who's like, what?
So we don't have a general society does not have an appetite for what's true.
Yes, that's
or
reachable
what's-
English. Yeah.
I am saying
So I'm
they
just
do.
like, you are speaking to
I am saying they do.
a minority.
No, we do.
The capacity's
We're
there.
just consuming it wrongly, if that's the English word. I'm saying the reason why podcasts are blowing up, the reason why blogs or articles have blown up, the reason why anyone can pick up a camera and start speaking and they have a following is because society wants truth. Society wants to engage on certain topics at a very deeper level. But I am
they doing it
saying,
incorrectly?
yes,
Okay.
we have
What's
not.
become mainstream is not.
Dog, we have not determined where the distinction is. So if because at every conversation, even here, we coming in with our own experiences, right? Hundreds. But at some point, we need to say, okay, cool, guys, if this is what the truth is, so which I think all of us are arguing for, that submission is a beautiful concept. Submission is a beautiful thing. When it's done well, when it's practiced right, it's amazing. Just like loving. Sacrificially so, giving of yourself 100% to your wife is a beautiful thing in a society where men are only standing on street corners saying, wives need to be doing this, and they go home and they're lazy, fathers are absent, guys are drinking, guys are cheating.
Aren't loving their
Go there.
wives.
No,
Go there.
1,000%, bro.
Go there.
Right? And so I'm like, in a society like the one we living in, when husbands are loving their wives, when fathers are there, giving, bro, I've said this a million times. When I look at your dad, dog, right? I'm like, your old man is inspiration, bro. Right? How many of us can say, see, we have dads who are still there, dads who are present, who are loving their wives, our mothers. And that love has been increasing, dog, over the years, right? You see you and your brother becoming better men because of your fathers, right? We cannot say that, dog, in the society that we live in now, right? But we have a bunch of dudes. Why? Because there's little guys out there, right? Young men out there who are hungry for truth. They're just consuming it wrongly, because now you come with your brokenness. Your dad left you when you were 15, and then you come here and you hear a dude saying, well, women need to do this. Aren't you internally looking for a strong male voice? You are. So where do you start determining, this is my experience. I'm hurt. My dad left me. But what this dude is saying, that's his opinion. This is not me. Right? This is not where I've been called to go. This is not me. If I'm going to correct the hurt that I've experienced because of my absent dad, I'm probably not going to correct it by now oppressing women and calling them wada, right? And I'm like, if you're going to think submission is making your wife a scrap lap, that's not going to heal you, dog. That's not healing you, dog.
I don't want to say anything after this. We can close it, dog.
If you want to be healed as a man, I'm like, yo, my dog, how's about you do something that was different from what your dad did? Did your dad love your mother sacrificially? Are you sitting here with the hurt that you have because you saw your dad abuse your mom? How do you think replicating the same things that your father did is going to? You can sit here confidently and say, there's good things that my dad has done that I'll replicate. Even me, sitting on the sidelines, I'm like, me, cheerleading. Your father, I'm here. I'm a cheerleader of it. Do what your fathers did. 100. Don't do what my dad did. Don't do that, right? And I need to now listen to whoever's out there with that in mind. Don't I want to consume truth? I do. So when somebody's going to speak about submission and I'm like, this smells like my father. Forget that, dog. Hey! Forget that.
I started with submission.
In my view,
Forget that.
there is
philosophy.
many
It's theology.
more episodes that need to come out
bro.
to unpack this in its...
That
You've
can't
just
be
touched on so many things
This can't be it, bro.
that literally
Hundreds.
go against the grain
Hundreds.
and against what the culture, because there's so many other side roads that feed
Hundreds,
into
bro.
this, right? When we
Hundreds.
talk submission, back in
It's
the day,
lame.
I
You
would
say it,
argue that back in the day, submission was an easier concept to come by if the father, the husband, was loving his wife properly, because at that time, the variable of financial capability was stripped out from women. Whether that's right or not, I'm not advocating that women shouldn't get paid, that they shouldn't get equal pay. They should. And they should be compensated for the value and the gifts that they give in the workplace. But where you saw it flourish in that context is when a family comes together, say, this is the amount of money that we have as a family. Not this is my money.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will direct where it goes as a husband, but this is the money we have as a family. My love, what do we need to use this money for?
Sure.
The flourishing of our family, for your flourishing, for my flourishing. And then you make decisions collectively according to that. Again, submission takes place in the context of the wife submitting to whatever the vision of the family is. That's primarily held accountable, driven by the husband, and he's responsible for it, both in the eyes of the marriage itself and the community. And subsequently, the husband is loving his wife by not taking the money and going to spend it at, I'm not going to be personal,
At their
going to spend it wherever you
no.
spend it, and not bringing the full work and efforts that is being supported by your wife to say, here's what we have earned and this is how we move forward. So I think there's a financial variable that comes into play when you look at society back then. There's also the cultural variable where I think in many ways Africa's history has been one where we are encouraged to live communally. The individualistic narrative
There are
is
a lot
not
of
one.
gems in the African history and culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The individual view of life, worldview, was something brought about, I would argue, by either colonialism or capitalistic mindsets. Whereas as a community, the idea of Ubuntu, the idea of a child is raised by the village, those are things that we grew up in. And so when you're now trying to juxtapose that way, that communal way of living, which I think starts with the family. You as a father living, you as a husband living for your wife and kids. And opposite as well, the wife and kids seeking to support the family structure and what it is trying to do. Very, very different from individualistically. I must go and I must focus on what I'm doing. And actually anyone who's coming in the way of what I desire to do is a problem. Much bigger.
You're a dictator there,
Much bigger issue. And I think,
bro, this thing is totally multi-layered. Let me maybe, because again,
you snap, bro.
Yeah, I've been
No, you snap. You snap.
Continue.
Like a cord.
nah, bro. Yeah.
Nah, listen.
So this thing has been abused. This thing has been tainted, has been, I think, just ripped out from what it actually was designed by God for, right? And I think we're sitting here today with all these layers, when we're trying to unravel in an hour, what submission is, because I think of all those things that we have to be super mindful for. I'll end here. For me, I am saying, I don't think submission is a curse word. I don't think submission is a bad thing. I think collectively, as society, even as people who are part of the marriage institution, we have messed this thing up. We've made it like totally what it's not. And my part in not being a half husband, trying to be a husband that can be celebrated is I want to love my wife, bro. Like, like I want my daughter to say, one day if I'm gonna get a man, he has to look like this. I want my wife to feel Dassy. Like, my friends love me, but have you met my husband? You know how much that dude would like chop off his right leg for me. No questions asked. Right? And I want my wife to comfortably submit in a home like that, in a marriage like that.
Fire.
With love like that, bro. Right?
Yeah, man. I think I would actually I'd flow from that and say, firstly, I think we need to be intentional as a people to not focus on the abuse or the misuse or the misrepresentation of submission, and be intentional in going back to what it means and the beauty that comes from when it's exercised properly. Going back to my initial illustration, I'm like, it's a scaffold. It's something. It's a structure that can be very helpful in you building the skyscraper of the marriage that you want. And then following like a similar structure to how you gave your parting shot out, then say, the intention is for my wife and for the people around her to ultimately be able to see how Prince being in her life has led her to being a better person than had she been by herself. If that is not visible at the end of my life, then I have failed. Even if I'm a millionaire, even if I'm a billionaire. If my wife and the people around her cannot see how she's a better person with me in her life, it's chai.
And I would say, even the people in your life
Yes, sir.
will see how you're a better person because your wife submitted to you.
That's right.
Finished.
Daddy's
She's
wife.
better because I loved her. I am way better because she submitted. Hundreds.
Daddy's why? Daddy is right.
So listen, I think
Yes,
Judge
Judge.
I'm just gonna put it this way. As the judge,
Yes, sir.
honestly, I feel like there's so much more we need to discuss.
Yeah.
Tons, bro.
And for those of you who are watching and want some of these things touched on, put that in the comment section.
Yeah.
Wanna actually really, really unpack this in all of its solidarity.
Yeah.
Because I think we've been having the conversation on very anecdotal
Yes, sir.
type data.
Yeah.
Oh no, when submission is abused, this is what it looks like. Therefore, I will not submit
Yeah.
on a female
Yeah.
side. Or when a husband doesn't feel trusted and submitted, my wife, I can't love my wife because she doesn't submit A, B, and C, or I have to be a dictator in order to be. I think we need to reframe the conversation around submission. This is not a vulgar thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Shouldn't be offensive either.
And as a society, it should be something that we are actively, one, embracing.
Yeah.
Number two, dispelling the way that it's being talked about now. I think as
Yes.
married people,
Yes.
like you said,
Yeah.
institutionally, we need to be modeling where, how, why submission is good. And it's not oppressing anyone.
Yes,
At
sir.
the end of the day, actually, it's collectively bringing about the flourishing of marriage, flourishing of humans, husband and wife included.
Yeah.
That being said, we'll talk furthermore.
Yes.
I love
sir.
you.
Ah, bits.
2.5.
Cheers.
Peace.